How's it going, everyone? Welcome back. Hopefully everyone is having a lovely day. Not just a game, but the game. Ohio State, Michigan has a little bit different ring to it this year. A little similar to last season. Both teams coming in here looking to make the college football playoffs. Both teams coming in undefeated. But I think this season, it's a little bit different. This season, we're going to walk into this game, 5 teams undefeated. It looks like there seemingly is no route for both of these teams to make the college football playoffs. I mean, Florida State sitting on there. It looks like Florida State should win their game. You have an SEC team. It's going to be Georgia, Alabama. One of those teams, they're going to make the playoffs. Obviously, Michigan, Ohio State, one of these two teams makes the playoffs. And you have Washington, who, these teams, you look at the teams are playing next week, unless some massive upset happens, they're going to win their game. They're going to play a conference championship game. Washington or Oregon, one of those teams will make the college football playoffs. So all that said, winner go home. A lot at stake here this season for this Ohio State versus Michigan matchup. And this is, let's dive right into this, looking at things for Ohio State. Ohio State has a chance to walk into this and potentially lose 3 straight years to Michigan after dominating the series out over the last decade. And there's a lot of talk, and it's really going to heat up towards Ryan Day if they don't find a way to win this one. I mean, this is a team that you already know. You know exactly what Michigan wants to do, and they're not afraid to do it. They'll run the ball 30 straight times, literally, if they have to win a football game. You know that's what they want to do last year. They want to do it this year. They want to do the year before. They've run it, and this is what's interesting about this matchup because it rarely happens in college football. It almost feels like when you have a divisional matchup in the NFL where you play a team for the 3rd time that season, it is super, super difficult to beat them. If you beat them twice during regular season, that 3rd matchup, it always in a tough one. To beat the same team 3 times in a row, it almost feels like that. Obviously, you have a lot of turnover in college, but the core of this Michigan offense has kind of been around for the last 2 or 3 seasons. McCarthy, Corum, your run game, somebody, Cornelius Johnson, the year he had last year, he's back again. You know exactly what this team's going to do. And if you're Ryan Day, you say, are you gonna let them do exactly what they did the last 2 seasons? Are you gonna make some adjustments? Because you let them do the same thing 3 years in a row. You talk about Michigan and Harbaugh and the story about them knowing the playbook, knowing what we're gonna do. I mean, if you don't know what Michigan's gonna do at this point in time, and that's what's funny about it. Let's throw that noise out the window, saying Harbaugh and company, they knew the plays that were coming, whatever. We knew the plays that were coming. Penn State knew the plays that were coming. They still couldn't stop them. That is how good this Michigan football team has been this year. It's how good it was last year. You know what's coming, and they're still not stoppable. And that's scary. As a dangerous football team right there. Ohio State, and again, this is where things are concerned. Ohio State is still continuously allowing 5 yards per carry to opposing teams starting running backs throughout the season. And if they can't figure out a way to slow down Blake Corum and company, it is going to be a long night for Ohio State because they'll run that football all night. They'll run that football all night. They'll run that football 50 times. They might throw the football twice all game. They have got to find a way to slow this guy down. Last week against Maryland, they seen early a couple big gaping runs early in the game, but Maryland put up a fight, and Maryland put up a fight for a good reason. Maryland put up a fight because as the game progressed, they started to slow Corum down a little bit. As they slowed Corum down, they kind of inched their way back in the game. They had a couple of turnovers in the game. Corum put the ball on the ground. It was recovered. And they found a way to inch back into this football game. And I think that's exactly what Ohio State has to do here if they want to win this game. They have got to find a way to slow this team down. They got to find a way to slow the run game down. And they've got to find a way, I think more importantly, what's the realistic look here is Ohio State's got to get a couple turnovers. They got to get at least one. They got to play clean offensively. Remember last season, the game, it was a good game. It was a close game. It was tight. It was after a couple big Michigan explosive plays, which I think the Buckeyes clean up this season. I think Coach Knowles has got this defense playing the best it's played in years for Ohio State. They're going to clean that up. We're not going to see them give up them big explosive plays this time around, which it was. It was a gut wrench. It was a gut punch, if you will, last season. Cornelius Johnson had 2 big touchdowns. They had 3 plays of over 45 plus yards through the air. They can't do that again this season. I think we see this defense clean things up. I think we see them playing a lot better. The continuity is becoming a big thing here for the Buckeyes offensive line. Trey Henderson, he plays, he's healthy. He's looking like the stud running back that he is once again. We're starting to see the offensive line shore things up. The Buckeyes going to lean heavily on that run game, but they got to play some clean ball. It was that second half where things started to unravel. There was some bad penalties. There was the pass interference that was a little questionable. And a little quiet, probably shouldn't have been called. Probably shouldn't have been called, resulted in a touchdown instead of a field goal from Michigan last year. But at the end of the day, you got to be able to bounce back from that adversity. You got to be able to make the stops and make some plays when things don't go your way. They didn't in that case. I mean, at the end of the day, Michigan ran for 216 yards with Edwards last season. So we can't really make those excuses. Buckeyes just have to be able to clean things up. They have to be able to go punch for punch with Michigan this season. And they're capable of it. As the years progress, we've seen Kyle McCord slowly but surely get better and better. You have it's early, but what feels like a Hall of Fame wide receiver in Marvin Harrison Jr. You have Emeka Abu. You still have two really, really talented receivers. You got to get these guys the football. You still have Trey Henderson, who is, again, top tier running back. You have an offensive line that has been getting better and better throughout the season. And you got to ride on your playmakers. You got to ride on your playmakers, and you got to count on this team being able to march the football up and down the field. And the beauty of this team this season, it feels like, again, Henderson's getting things going again. If they can keep the ball on the ground and keep the clock ticking on offense, get that defense and give them a little rest. They got to have it, because Michigan's going to wear that defense down if they don't. You have to find a way to choose some clock and move the football down the field efficiently. And I think that is the big thing for Ohio State this season, and they've shown it last season. They can do it. They got to avoid the penalties, though. They got to avoid the mistakes. Because I do think pound for pound, aerial attack versus aerial attack, Ohio State can go with this team. I think they got the better playmakers on the overall. You got to be careful when you say that, because Blake Corum's a heck of a running back. But I think they got the better playmakers. I think if Ohio State can force Michigan to throw the football, they can get those turnovers. They can get those third down or stops on third down that they need to make. It's just so important, and it's so difficult to slow down this Michigan rush attack. Again, teams know it's coming. You know it's coming in this game. If you can stop Michigan on first and second down and force them to throw the football, if you go, and that was what the problem was with Ohio State last season. That's where the big plays came in. They went into that game knowing, hey, we got to go all in on stopping this run, and went man to man, and that's where the big plays came from, through the air. That game plan's got to go out the window, obviously. And I think Coach knows and Buckeyes know that's out the window. We got to try something different than that. That didn't work. That didn't work at all. But again, you see this defense continue to grow, continue to improve. Again, best they've seen in Ohio State in a few years now. They've got to find a way to slow down Blake Corum Company just a couple times, a couple big stops, force them to make some mistakes. And Ohio State can go with this team. They can run with this team. But if Ohio State wants to win this football game, you have got to force McCarthy to throw the football, and you have got to make sure Trey Henderson has a big game. You have got to get Marvin Harrison Jr. involved early and often, not wait until the end of the first quarter until he gets his first pass. We've seen that a couple times this season. McCord's got to step up. McCord's got to have a big game. We've seen him show some flashes of greatness, and we've also seen some situations where he's missing a wide open Marvin Harrison's open every time he's out there. So he's got to make sure he's hitting those passes, because for Ohio State to win this football game, I think they have to play clean. They have to play perfect offensively. They got to make a couple big stops, get them turnovers. They can win this football game. But overall, it feels like the needle right now is swaying heavily in Michigan's favor. The Ohio State's going to come in as a 4-point dog, but you play Michigan, you play this team again. What Ohio State has going for them is understanding exactly what this team's going to do. Understanding they've played this team year in and year out now, and it's a lot of the same personnel, same play, same players. So they have that going. The problem is teams know it. Michigan is so freaking good at what they do, at controlling the trenches, controlling the line of scrimmage. And I don't know if Ohio State has an answer for that, because they haven't had an answer for that, the run game so far this season for the most part. And I think ultimately, and it pains me to say it, I think ultimately this is a game Michigan comes out on top of. Michigan's probably win this one. I think they'll win about 30, 38, maybe 27. Ends up being a higher scoring game. Buckeyes, again, they've got to find a way to keep the game close. They got to keep the game close. Michigan jumps to that 2-score lead. They feel comfortable running the football all the time. That's when things get scary. We'll see what they can do. As a Buckeyes fan, I'm over here trying to think like what can be done to slow down Michigan, because they might not be blowing teams out. They might not be a powerhouse offense in that regard, but they are a team, and the reason the games stay low scoring is because they control that line of scrimmage. They control the clock, and it just wear you down. By the time you get to that second half, that defense is gashed. Their holes are opening up, and they're making big plays and closing the game out. Ohio State's just got to stick with them. They stick with them and get through that second. They get that second half to keeping that game close. I think they're going to be able to come out, find a way to win this game. But we'll see. I'm going to say Michigan again, 38, Ohio State 27. Love y'all's thoughts. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.